just quickly want to acquaint our viewers with another fund manager, and this time around it's Srinivasan, who's the fund manager at SBI Mutual Fund, manages SBI Emerging Businesses Fund. Remember, SBI Emerging Businesses Fund has been awarded as the best India equity fund in 3 years performance, and that has been credited by Lipper Thomson Reuters. Thanks very much, Mr. Srinivasan, for joining us. What's the rationale behind this fund, and how are you going about stock picking in a market which is so volatile?
Okay, so just to clarify, it's a sector agnostic fund. So whatever sectors you see in terms of overweight and underweight, that's a derivative of our bottom-up stock picking process. So an overweight in the sector doesn't necessarily mean that we are positive with that sector. So that's important to understand. So stocks happen to be in certain sectors, so we are overweight those sectors. It's not necessary that we like those sectors. And it's predominantly mid and small cap, right? So the stocks do not necessarily reflect what the sector typically means to you. So a page, for example, Hawkins, the consumer discretionary items, they're in the consumer space, but they don't really reflect the consumer space as in a lever or a ITC, for example.
I see banks, consumer names as well as services as core sectors to the fund. Are those sectors, are you kind of booking profits in some of those sectors, given that they see more values? I mean, banks have fallen considerably. So what is it that you're doing with your positions there?
So as a house, So as a house, the highest overweight sector has been financials, and followed by consumer discretionary. We are negative. The most negative sector we have right now is consumer staples. And that's a call that's worked against us for the last few months. So we're kind of debating what to do about it.
Right, but is it time to book profits in consumers?
So the mandate is basically to pick your best ideas, and we have a mid-cap framework which has 5 pillars. We look at a right to win characteristic, we look at return on capital, we look at growth, we look at management, we look at valuations. In this fund, it's basically a function of the relative intensity of each factor. So you will find deep value, you will find stocks which have growth potential. So it's practically the entire universe, and then we boil down to what gives you the best best risk adjusted return. Could come from earnings growth, valuations, or a combination of both. So most of these stocks have come. So that's the basis of our.
But just first, speaking about the fund with Mr. Srinivasan, just a couple of other questions. Your fund is largely a mid-cap fund. Why is small-cap exposure limited to 12%?
The small-cap exposure used to be much higher. The fund was much smaller 3 years back. Now the fund size itself is like 1,300 crores, which is actually the small-cap cutoff for us as a house. So you obviously don't see too many small caps, and whatever small caps you see is a function of the legacy. So a 1,300 crore fund, you don't have enough liquidity to buy a small cap, right? So that's the reason why you see the small cap proportion having gone down. So the fund keeps growing, small cap has to go down further.
Right, okay, Mr. Srinivasan, where is it that you're seeing opportunities in this market for this fund as of now?
It's been difficult in the last few months. We've gone ahead and bought stocks which are potentially high risk. So even when we bought them, we knew the potential downside was higher. We obviously bought them because we wanted an upside. We typically look for a 25% CAGR over 3-4 years. So it's been very difficult to find opportunities in this fund. Whatever you like in terms of earnings, growth and visibility, they're pretty expensive. And whatever is cheap in terms of return potential, where you think a valuation re-rating may come about, they're based on specific events, and there are uncertainties related to that. So I don't know. There's no clear answer for that. So we're still looking for opportunities. There's no clear opportunity that we see right now in this market because it's kind of pretty polarized.
All right, Mr. Srinivasan, thanks very much for joining us. and giving us your perspective on the SBI emerging business